Hello. Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or shortened to IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm the president of IPA-USA. And as part of our efforts to promote play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, which are these conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. If you go to our website at IPAUSA.org, up in that top right-hand corner, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can friend us on Facebook. We also have an Instagram icon up there that you can join. And magically, every Monday, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. Joining us on the porch today is Lisa Murphy. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Excuse me. I'm also looking at my dogs.
Yes, she's
So
got two
if I'm a little
puppies.
distracted to our watchers, our viewers. Yes, we have a new puppy in the house.
And she has a hurricane coming.
I know, you know, once you got one, what's the other?
Yeah, so the puppies are anyway. So, and joining us today too is Rachel Franz. And Rachel's a fierce fighter for honoring children in childhood. She's the education manager at Fairplay, which works towards systems level change around how kids get hooked on screen time and builds a world in which kids can be kids, free from the influence of corporations. As a former educator and director in both indoor and all outdoor early learning programs, Rachel also offers training and consulting in early childhood education programs on topics ranging from nature play and outdoor preschool to anti-oppression, child-centered approaches to learning, and of course, play through her company, Twig Thread Consulting. And so today, Rachel's going to talk to us about how apps are designed without play and child development in mind. And I have to tell you, Rachel, my child development class on Tuesday, we've been talking about the why technology doesn't work. And so I'm really excited about this. We did the world standards that we did on the every tool is a weapon thing. And they're like, what? And over and on the whiteboard in the classroom, I said, so, it's 6:30 to 8 p.m., 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Calculate how many hours kids are exposed to technology before I put up the recommendations. And they were like, oh, well, 2.5 hours here, 3 hours here, and an hour maybe in commuting going back and forth. And then I put up the recommendations and they were like, oh my God.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold on. I have to. Okay, could you see
Who's
that?
raising the kids? Oh, who did that?
Susan Lynn.
Lynn.
Yeah, Dr. Susan Lynn is the founder of Fairplay. We were once called Campaign for Commercial-Free Childhood. And I've been spending a lot of time with her the past several months, talking to her about her book, and it's a great one. Whether or not we get into it today, I highly recommend it. But it
maybe you and Susan could come on a follow-up chat.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds
yes.
great.
And Rachel, think about asking her if she'd be interested in doing a town hall on that.
I'm sure she would be.
She's making a note. Give her a second.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because I think it's really important that we help people shift what they think is helpful to development versus how it interferes with development. And so I think that would be, I like that. I love that title. I may have to get that book.
Oh my God. I got it. I don't know, 3 weeks ago. Like as soon as it was released, I got it and I ate it up the next day. And it was one of those books that you read and just like, and then you read it again in order to get what you need from it. And then you read it a third time in order to see what you can do about it.
It's
Does
also,
that make sense?
Yeah, and it's also available as an audiobook, which I found really fun. It's read by Susan, and
awesome.
it's a different way to process the information.
wonderful.
This is an
So
accidental advertisement for
it is.
Dr.
It is
Lynn's book, but it's
accidental.
worth
That was
reading.
unintentional, but it all just came up organic.
Oh, it's 100% intentional. As soon as I saw you were today, I was like, oh, we got to plug this somehow.
That's great.
So here we go. Okay, Rachel, so talk to us about the topic that you came up with for today, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, I think we know that the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no more than 1 hour of screen time a day for preschool age children. They don't set very clear limits for older children, but we know that it's good to put limits on screen time. And we know that for the most part, when families are offering their kids, especially young kids, devices, they want to make sure that things are relatively safe for them and relatively appropriate, right? I think when we ask the question, can kids really play when they are using apps and devices and screens? I think the short answer is sometimes, but with big caveats. I mean, right? First, we know that if we look at the 4 pillars of play that were penned by Roberta Golenkoff and Kathy Hirsch-Pasek, right? We know that true play experiences need to be active and hands-on. They need to be engaging. They need to be meaningful to children's lives, and they need to have some sort of social aspect, whether it's independent play and then they're processing it later, or whether it's even as parallel play, or as cooperative play with peers, with adults, whatever that looks like. And it's really, really hard to justify that any app does that and is actually designed with play in mind. And most of the time, instead of active, it's more distracting. Instead of engaging, it's entertaining, maybe, right? It's usually out of the context of their lives. And it's usually designed to be sort of a solo activity that, understandably, families can use to cook dinner, to while they're working from home, to give children something to do.
I have to jump in here.
Yeah.
And I know I'm speaking to like-minded people. So for the naysayers who might be listening, where is the argument or the research or the article that shows that dramatic play can do that, and block play can do that, and Legos and puzzles and playing with my baby dolls, right? We actually did a porch play chat a couple of hours ago that after we were done recording, I commented she had a toddler in the room with her while she was recording, and pretty much, with the exception of one, I need to hug you and run away, the child was 100% self-engaged. So to the and I'm not putting you on the spotlight, I'm not, or the hot seat, but when it comes to that, because I get that, oh, I got a puppy, I need you to not be in the kitchen while I'm cooking dinner. So I can either teach you how to play with the other dog, or I can kennel you up. And so to some degree, at least right now, thinking off the top of my head, kenneling up is easy. That's the app. That sit down and look at a screen, versus taking the time to figure out how to start making those connections.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this is something I'm so passionate about, because, I think that there is a fundamental loss of problem-solving practice and knowing how to be bored and how to move through that, and appreciate that as parents, and also, support your child to find their own initiative, even at very young ages. And most technology, apps and games especially, actually work against our children's initiative. And instead they pepper them with all of these rewards for staying engaged. And they, you know, they wire their brains so that they need that constant reward and that instant gratification in order to stay engaged. And
Yes.
right, what is that doing to children's brains? What is that doing to their ability to, you know, problem solve later in life, but also right now when, you know, play is really the highest form of learning, and they need those skills, and handing them the device is really, it can rob them of that for sure.
It absolutely does. And I think, you know, it was really interesting in the conversation we were having in class yesterday. People were like, but I said, so what are the arguments for using all this technology? What are some things that you've heard? And they're like, well, we need to get them ready for the future. And I said, well,
Oh, that is
argument,
the most
I know,
deep.
that argument holds no
Debunked that
water,
since
none.
1989.
Oh my God. And you know, I said, what has
I'm
changed?
looking for the source behind me. That's what I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
good. Keep looking. What is so hysterical about that stupid argument is that I would ask them, okay, so how has your phone changed in the last 12 months? And they're like, oh, it does this now, and it does this now, and it does this now, and it does this now. And I said, so the stuff that we're trying to expose children to today is going to be gone. Why? Why are we wasting their
Come on, let's
time?
play Oregon Trail.
Oh my God.
Honk.
And then, you know, we talk about how the violence with Bandura's, you know, social learning theory, how the violence that they see is imitated in their play. And because that's how they're learning, right? They're seeing it, they're doing it, right? And so, you know, it was really eye-opening to hear what they have heard and why you need to give your child a cell phone because you know they're going to be using cell phones.
So my question to that is, do you think with a very quick, like, actually, that's not true, and we debunked that about 25 years ago, here's an article, how many people actually go, oh, shoot, like, oh, wow, Matt, my bad, I thought this was still the mindset, versus, oh, no, this is what I was taught. Like, how many people in the heat of that dialogue and that conversation are willing to go, oh, need to change my view.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I knew yesterday, but this is what I know now. And moving forward, I need to make some adjustments.
Yes. And we talked about, you know, how screen time is impacting cognitive development and social and emotional development and problem solving and critical thinking and staying on task.
Mental health. I'm in an airport now again after COVID, 1,000 times a week. How many children do I see throw themselves down on the floor in a fit that looks like taking heroin away from an addict because the parent said, I need to hold your device because we're boarding the plane. And that just, it's like, I have actually found, and I don't know what this is going to sound like for me as a disclosure, but I found I can't even watch it anymore because I just want to go up and pick the kid up and sing them a song and get their ass on the plane. And I just see little children having
addicted. They're addicted.
It's a huge reaction. And I just think about the lack of conversation and that putting I don't know. I just like, I see kids being pushed in a carrier or held outward in a carrier. And I'm like, oh, turn that baby around so they can see your face. Held outward in a baby carrier with the baby holding a tablet. And there's a part of me that's like, I don't have enough gray hair yet to be like walking up to these people, taking the tablet out and be like, stop it.
You know, I think we've been talking a lot about this lately at Fairplay because now we have a generation of parents and caregivers, primary caregivers who were raised with technology, right? And myself and people, I'm in my 30s, people younger than me, we're starting to have babies, or we already have teenagers, right? And it's really interesting when your brain is wired to feel like these devices are convenient and appropriate, and now to be rearing children in that context, it's very
So did we cross a
complicated.
tipping point? Are we like the old people standing on the lawn saying, get off the lawn? Because we've reached a point of no return. I realize that sounds a little pessimistic, but at some point, unless there is a pushback from people younger, this is going to be how it moves forward, regardless of what kind of data and research we have that shows that the opposite is better developmentally. And I think as a 53-year-old woman who's been in this industry now for so long, it's like
Right.
what a weird predicament. Like, am I at a point where I'm like, I'm outnumbered and I just need to like graciously back out of this particular conversation? Or
I think that's a really important question for like all of us to be asking. Should we, like, where do our attitudes need to adjust based on where our generations are at? And I still think that like child development has not changed, right? Like children still need high quality play and loving primary caregivers and face-to-face interaction. Like that has not changed. And there's no research to back up the fact that screens can replace that.
Exactly. And
And
so
that's why I think
this is a fight worth fighting, right?
It is, but I
100%.
think our tactics have been wrong. I don't think they need a lecture. I don't think they need an article. I don't think, with all due respect, I don't think they're going to listen to this podcast or this and watch this video and be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I think what they need is what we know children need. We need, and this is an advocacy comment for like pop-up play days and for play work and for open-ended spontaneous play where the adults who maybe didn't get it, and you should have, and I'm sorry you didn't, but I think when we can fill that need in the adults, then they start to see how and why it's important for their own children. So like family play day, park days, I have found to be so successful because you'll get young parents who are like, I never did this. And you're like, and I'm sorry. And my heart hurts for you. You should have, you didn't, but you're getting it today. So what of the activities that are here today can you go home and do tomorrow with your two babies that you brought here today? And I think that starts, heal is a big word. So I'm not implying that you need to heal from that, but I'm implying that you can start maybe filling what you didn't realize was empty and therefore realizing that your own children need it as well.
Right. And I think all of this, the parent and family role in all of this is so key. And I think that today's parents are set up with sort of the impossible task of working against these really powerful technologies that are literally designed to keep kids on the screen. And even apps like YouTube Kids, for example, or the PBS Kids app, right? They have autoplay. And autoplay is specifically designed to hijack kids' brains and to keep them on the screen. And it is like, that's detrimental to them. And so I think that, what we do at Fairplay is we really call upon those companies that are designing apps with profit in mind, as opposed to designing apps with kids and play in mind. And so while yes, families have such a critical role in all of this, we need
so do the companies.
Exactly. And they are working against our families who may or may not be aware, but like it should be a family's right to be able to even just like have their child watch a video and not have all of these pretty evil motives come at them when their kid is just trying to watch, use their 1 hour allotted recommended screen time.
And now we're like, trying to get them to 1 hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours, and 4 hours, and yeah.
Mhm. And that's why they have the meltdowns in the airport, you
Mhm.
know?
Sure.
Right. So,
Right.
so the other thing I think people need to recognize is we're not saying adults can't have technology.
Right.
Screen-based. Let's clarify for a minute, because there's a fork is technology, right? A
Yeah.
blender is technology.
Yes.
Screen-based technology. But I do think, though, that it is important to consider how we are using it and how we're modeling it.
Yes.
Exactly. So but it's not, we're not saying, oh, I'm sorry, Gen Zs, you have to put your phone away and go back to a flip phone where you don't have, all of those apps.
Although
and
that would
things
be a
on it.
nice, interesting social experiment that we could
It
write a
would
paper
be.
on.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
If
Sure.
everybody had to give up their phones for
Yeah.
a week.
I
wouldn't that
mean,
be
that's what we
wonderful?
do for
That's
Screen-Free
screen-free,
Week,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then there are a couple other youth-led initiatives right now. The Log Off movement is one, Heads Up
Mhm.
movement. They're happening in high schools where they're like, youth are leading these charges to put down the phone or to act more responsibly with them.
So that's where that change is going to happen.
I
Yeah.
think it is. It's so encouraging, and I learn so much from young people who talk about their phone use because they're in it.
So maybe we need to get some of those young people who are
Ooh, that
leading
would be
these
a nice
charges on a
follow-up
Porch Play Chat.
conversation.
Yeah, I think that would be
Some
great.
Because,
youth leaders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So think
And
about that, how to link this up.
I saw a video, and it might have been with you guys with Fairplay, of where kids like played in the woods and in the parks on the weekend, and everybody was worried that they'd be like, oh, there's no phones, and not one of the kids said at the end of the experiment that they actually had missed the device at all.
Mhm.
And that was empowering to me. I almost think that there's like a generational, like people who are a little younger than me, but like the little younger than me maybe are the ones like, but the kids younger than them, I think that's where that change. I think that's what Rachel, those youth leaders,
Mhm.
so kids who could be let's do the math, like who's 17, my grandkids. So we skipped a generation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think
but that's what happens sometimes. It skips a generation, and then we go, oh shoot, that could have been a little better.
well, I mean, think about in the 90s, we got the internet, right? I mean, general public.
Did, right? The general public got it.
The general public got the internet, and then look at what's happened in 20 years, right?
Oh,
so
it's crazy.
And it ain't,
a generation. Yeah.
It's a generation, right? Who has been sucked into, the newest thing. Oh, it does more, the newest thing. Where I'm hopeful, Rachel, now that we've had this conversation, that there are that skip generation, the younger ones are like, whoa, we're not communicating we're communicating over text instead of calling somebody, or because my stepchildren are in that generation. They're 27 and 30, and they were like, I don't want to call somebody. I'll just text them, right? So, and I'm like, you need to learn to talk to people, right? On the phone, that's good. But they wouldn't. I don't want to talk.
It was not a skill that had to be cultivated.
I don't want to talk to someone.
But
What's so funny is that Richie now is talking to people on a phone in his job. And it's like, yeah. So it cracks me up that they went to, texting versus talking. And so you lose that social connection again.
Well, and COVID didn't help, not to like open up that can of worms again,
Right.
but that didn't help. We all forgot how to communicate. Or how to communicate like in person, and kind of the social norms and things like that. I mean, that I'm also seeing in the airport. It's like, whoa, you guys are used to like so much stuff that we need to recalibrate, not back to the way it was. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's like we lost a skill. That muscle was not used. And so it started to atrophy to some degree.
Yeah. And so Rachel, if people want to learn more about, how the companies like YouTube and the app makers are influencing children and almost sucking them into this continuum. Yeah, who's raising the kids is definitely something I want for a town hall coming up
Highly
very
recommend.
soon.
Yep.
Yes. And she can have slides and research and all that wonderful stuff, and that will be very helpful, I think. Where on Fairplay can they go to get more information? And I know that you offer tons of things, and I'll put Fairplay's website into the Porch Play Chat.
Awesome.
But is there a specific group of things you could send me so that we could include them in the Porch Play Chat?
Sure. Yeah. And 2 years ago, I wrote a guide that's called Safe, Secure, and Smart. It is designed for families of preschoolers, and it takes families through these different design pieces and applies theories of learning, of developmentally appropriate practice and learning and play to
What's it called again? Say it again.
It's Safe, Secure, and Smart. So that's on our website, and I'll make sure you get the link to that.
Great.
And it talks through apps, it talks through online videos, and it also talks through voice assisted devices like Alexa, which is a very interesting.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. And
the
then
Internet of toys.
Yep. And then we have our Screen Time Action Network is a group of professionals, practitioners, parents from all over the world. And we have a number of different work groups that work on these kinds of things. If people are interested in them. And in the past several years, we've been putting out resources along with ASHA, the American Speech, Hearing, and Language Association, called Tech Wise with Baby and Tech Wise with Toddler, that invites families to think early and often about technology use and really make sure that they're modeling those, those behaviors and setting children up for success in terms of developing the skills they really need to develop without the help of a screen.
So if you will send me all three of those links, I will stick them in the Porch Play Chat.
Great.
I just had a thought about parental empowerment being an avenue towards this. You know how to do this. You are fully equipped.
Yeah.
Whether you realize it or not, to do absolutely everything that your baby needs. Society might be tricking you to think otherwise, but you are fully equipped to meet your baby's needs.
Right.
Yeah.
And our babies are often meeting those needs for themselves too, where we think we might need a screen to come in, right?
Yeah.
Like our kids actually do know how to entertain themselves. They don't actually need this.
Look, I got fingers.
Right, exactly. Right.
Look what I've got right
Look,
here.
I knocked something over.
Right, exactly. If you have, a Tupperware with a lid, right, you're golden.
Pots and pans and wooden spoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think our society has complicated it, and that's a whole other I know I say that a lot, but it really is. We've made it complicated, and it doesn't need to be complicated. I think somewhere along the way we started to think if it was hard, or if it was tricky or complicated or difficult, that somehow it was of more value,
right?
And that's not true.
Right.
Well, I just want to go back, and I know we need to close because Mike's in the waiting room, but
he's an understanding guy.
Yeah, I gave him a message. Yeah. I think technology has, and it unfortunately hasn't, but added to the issue of marketing.
Sure.
Where, the companies who make the swings and the exercisers and all the other prison devices, I call them, said, to be a good parent, you need to do this.
Yeah.
You need to be a good parent.
Playing on their heartstrings.
They are.
Their emotions.
To be a good parent. And so I think technology is now just like, well, that worked for them, so let's just try that, for us too. And you need to cook dinner here, put on this app, need to, any of those things. Now, and from the other side of it, parents are tired.
We've
They're
outsourced.
tired.
They are
Yeah.
tired. But
They're
they're
tired.
tired to some degree because we've started thinking that everything needs to be difficult and complicated.
Yes,
Not to
right.
oversimplify the argument, but third-party outsourcing is not going to fix
Right.
the stress.
Yeah, right. Give your child a wooden spoon and a bowl while you're cooking
And
dinner.
don't think it needs to be more than that. Like, my tagline, every year I have a tagline on my handouts. And this year it's play is sacred. And on my social media posts, I say play is enough. Play is enough to just get people to start to think that this is of value with its beginning and its middle and an end. Even if you don't see an innate value within it, it's enough.
It's enough. Yeah.
It's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I had a drawer in the kitchen with all the plastic lids and Rod would go in there.
I call it the divorce lids, right? They go into the washer, they go into the dishwasher and come out divorced. Like there's just a lid, there's just a bottom. And so we put them all in the cupboard.
It's like the socks in the dryer. I don't know where they go.
Socks. I don't know where they go.
And Rod would just go in when I was cooking dinner, away from the stove, away from the refrigerator, away from the traffic pattern. And he would take that out. He had his pen, he had his wooden spoon. He was having so much fun.
Mimicking, he was copying, he was observing, he was listening. Like there was 99,000 things happening at that point. And I don't know, maybe there's room to do some kind of a shine the light on when you think nothing is happening, there is so much
happening. Right. And instead of, I keep going back to, instead of this with the big X through it, try this with something that's more active. I always have wanted to do that, instead of the X or saucer, how about some balls?
Well, that's just because you're still in love with the original DAP book. And on that note, we'll wrap this up.
Yes, we will. I'm no longer in love with the newest DAP book. But anyway, Rachel, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Rachel. Stay right there. Let me close this out and we'll be right back.
Great.
So to learn more about IPA-USA, please visit our website at IPAUSA.org. And until next time, keep on playing.
Bye-bye.